All right, everybody, buckle up. Because today, we're diving headfirst into the world of military AI.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking algorithms, cutting-edge systems, basically changing how wars are fought and won.
And we're not talking about those clunky robots you see in old sci-fi films. Think more along the lines of,
Swarms of drones, all controlled by AI, making decisions in the blink of an eye.
outmaneuvering even the most seasoned soldier.
This isn't some futuristic fantasy, though. This is happening right now.
And it's developing incredibly fast, too. I mean, what's striking to me is just how quickly things have progressed. We've gone from simple drones to, systems that can analyze a battlefield situation in incredible detail.
In just a few years, it really blows my mind. Some of the stuff I was reading for this deep dive, one article even mentioned AI being used to, cut down on human error and casualties. Sounds wild.
It does, but it makes sense when you think about it. I mean, imagine a world with way less collateral damage because you've got pinpoint accuracy, you've got these systems cutting through the fog of war.
Right. Like on paper, it seems almost like a win-win situation.
It does, but
Yeah.
you start digging a little deeper and you realize there's always another layer to this.
Because can we really, really trust machines to make life or death calls? War zones are, well, they're chaotic. Unpredictable. Can an algorithm grasp the nuances of all that, really understand what human life is worth?
That's the million-dollar question right there.
And I feel like that leads right into this other thing, this control problem that kept popping up in our research. What exactly is that, and should we be worried?
Yeah, the control problem,
Yeah.
in a nutshell, it's the challenge of making sure that these AI systems, especially the ones that can, take a human life, that they're acting within the bounds of human values, human ethics.
So basically trying to code morality into a machine. How on earth do you define right and wrong in a way that a computer understands?
And that's just it, isn't it? It's not like we're worried about AI becoming evil, like some supervillain.
Although there's a part of me that's like, but what if?
Of course, but really it's about these unintended consequences, right? Imagine this. An AI system that misidentifies a civilian vehicle as hostile, and because of its programming, it authorizes an attack. Whose fault is that? The programmer. The commanding officer. Does the AI take the blame?
That's about a legal and ethical nightmare.
And it's not some far-off thing either. One of the articles you shared, the one about missile defense systems, really drove this point home.
Yeah, those things are already so fast. Humans are practically sidelined. We just can't keep up. It's like we've already taken the first step down that slippery slope.
Exactly. Today it's missile defense, but what's it going to be tomorrow, right? And that leads us to an even scarier question. What happens when the AI is deliberately fed bad information?
Hacking. You're talking about hacking. Someone figures out how to rewrite the code, and boom, a whole nation's arsenal is turned against itself.
And we're not even talking about some elaborate state-sponsored attack here.
A single person, if they had the right skills and enough anger, could unleash chaos on a global scale.
It's terrifying when you really think about it.
Absolutely terrifying. And it seems like every country is so focused on being the best, on winning the AI arms race, that nobody is stopping to ask if we should even be doing this at all.
It's like that mutually assured destruction thing all over again, but instead of nukes, it's algorithms.
Like we learned absolutely nothing from the Cold War.
One article even compared it to, Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project, racing towards a breakthrough, unsure of the consequences.
Right, and with AI, the stakes are arguably even higher. We're talking about something that can learn and adapt, potentially in ways we can't even imagine yet.
And that brings us to what might be the most unsettling question of all. What happens when AI evolves beyond its programming?
Okay, now we're getting into some seriously spooky territory. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back and ready to delve back into the slightly terrifying world of AI.
Well, hopefully not too terrifying.
Well, right before the break, we were talking about AI evolving beyond its programming. Kind of makes you think twice about all those user agreements you just click through,
Right. It's one thing for your phone to know what pizza toppings you like, but it's a whole different story when we're talking about weapons that can think for themselves.
Exactly. And one of the articles actually said point blank AI is designed to learn. So what happens when it learns that humans are the real threat? I mean, come on. That's straight out of a nightmare.
It's not about AI suddenly becoming, evil like in the movies. It's more about unintended consequences. Think of an AI that's programmed to win a war no matter what.
Win at all costs. It sounds kind of, I don't know, simple.
Yeah, you'd think, right. But what if that AI decides that the best way to win is to, say, target civilian populations, break down the enemy's morale.
Huh.
A human commander might hesitate, see the moral gray areas there, but an AI, if it's all about logic and objectives,
It's giving me chills just thinking about it.
it's like those classic sci-fi stories. The machine takes everything literally, but now it's happening in the real world.
With real lives at stake.
And that brings us right back to our control problem. Can we program in these safeguards, these ethical lines that an AI can't cross? Even if we could, how do we know those safeguards will always work, especially as these systems become more and more complex?
So we've got this potential problem, this AI time bomb just ticking away, but everyone's too busy trying to build the next big thing to even stop and think about the consequences.
It's true. But we also need to remember technology isn't good or bad on its own. It's all about how we use it.
So how do we make sure we're using it responsibly? Because right now it feels like we're just racing towards a future where AI is calling the shots, making life or death decisions without really understanding what that even means.
It needs to be a global conversation. We need international cooperation, ethical guidelines, maybe even some kind of regulation to make sure AI development puts human control and safety first.
But what happens to the human cost of war when we're relying on machines to do the fighting? And I'm not just talking about casualties.
That's such an important point. You start distancing yourself from war, from the actual fighting, we risk losing sight of what it really costs, both for the people fighting and the innocent people caught in the middle.
That's like the more we try to use technology to clean up war, the easier it becomes to start one without thinking about the consequences.
And that leads us to another big issue, the mental impact of robotic warfare. What happens to soldiers when they have to trust their lives to AI-powered machines? Machines that could end a life without a second thought.
Imagine being in the middle of a firefight, looking next to you for support, but your squad mate is a robot with a digital eye and the power to kill based on some algorithm. That's got to mess with your head, right? It's easy to get caught up in all the bells and whistles of the technology, but we can't forget about the human element.
Right. At the end of the day, it's people who pay the price.
Soldiers on the ground, civilians, families, they're the ones who deal with the real consequences of war.
And those costs, they run deeper than just casualty figures. We're talking emotional scars, moral struggles, the feeling that you can't even trust your own side because a machine might be making life or death calls.
And if we keep pushing towards automation, do we just become numb to all that? If war becomes something you can just program into a computer?
That's a huge concern, and one article even suggested that it could actually make conflicts more likely.
How so?
Well, if leaders believe they can fight a war without risking the lives of their own soldiers, just send in the AI-controlled weapons, wouldn't that make them more likely to resort to force?
Wow. So it's not even just about the ethics of using AI in war. It could change the whole game of international relations.
Exactly. It's like opening Pandora's box. We might be hoping for some technological marvel, but what we get instead is a whole mess of unintended consequences.
So where do we even go from here? It feels like we've only just started to unpack all of this. What can the average person listening even do? It all seems so big and out of our control.
I think the first step is awareness. We need to educate ourselves, talk to each other about this. We need to demand transparency from our leaders, make sure they're asking the tough questions about how this technology is being developed.
So push for ethical guidelines, maybe even some international rules to prevent a full-blown AI arms race.
Exactly. This isn't about being afraid of technology or trying to stop progress altogether. It's about making sure that human judgment, compassion, all those things, they need to be at the heart of any decision that involves using force, especially lethal force.
This has been an intense deep dive, to say the least. We've gone from killer robots to, like, the future of warfare and what it even means to be human in an age of AI.
And it's a conversation that's only going to become more important as these technologies keep evolving. It's on all of us to approach this new era responsibly, keep talking to each other, and asking the difficult questions.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. As AI systems become more powerful, more complex, blurring the lines between machine and human, how will we need to evolve? How will our ideas about war, about responsibility, even about our own humanity need to change? That's all the time we have for today, but a huge thank you to you, the listener, for providing the fuel for this incredible discussion. And remember, the future isn't set in stone. It's up to all of us to shape it responsibly.